Thank you. Yes, I'm from China. There's a word about China. It's only could be one word: crazy. Um, yeah, probably there's another word: madness. Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of background about this. What happens is madness. So you see this map. Uh, the, the country was divided by this red dot line, and actually this is what we told a one like 70% of the population is Chinese living in this 40% of the land. So you see the three circles. That's the most populated metropolitan area. The north part is from Beijing, the central one is Shanghai, and the lower part is called the Pearl River Delta, which has one of my company called Shenzhen, located that city. This is Shenzhen. The yellow dot is where my offices are located. So this is Shenzhen. In 1980s, it's real. And in year 2010, it's looking like this. So we have, say, 10% of Chinese people living in these three circles. It's about 1% of population living in Shenzhen, which is we have reached 15 million people. That's our official figure, and I was told about 18 million, and it's growing fast still. So this is a Shenzhen look several years ago, and very much like a official or propaganda type of image about Shenzhen. And actually the reality is, though that's why there's a way still try to keep distance to this craziness, and we do some different, keep different eye to this city. This is what happens, what you really like, you see in Shenzhen. You see the lower part is some area we call the urban village. And you see that the side is a part of, the whole map is a part of central Shenzhen downtown area. Central CBD is near the red square. And those bright part is all the village. And those villages belongs to the farmers who actually living there for hundreds of years. So when the city grow and it is being surrounded and finally look like this. So during those many years, like over 10 years working in Shenzhen, we start to look at these places, and then actually most of the Shenzhen people, they don't go these places. And we watch that place and study, doing the research. And a lot of people living in this area, has become coincidentally, cities benefited by these villages, and because since they play the role of a low-income community, and all the migrant workers come to Shenzhen. First, they live in this area in like a one-bedroom, two-bedroom apartments. They sometimes they live like 5, 10 people. That's very normal, and this is a very normal scene. You can see it, and the 3 generations living in one room is very common in Shenzhen. So this is even I have over 90 slides, but I still want to show this movie we made several years ago. But this is 10 minutes So I really want to fast forward something from a certain point, and so you see the lots of things happens in China, so you never have one thing can actually see the whole. So um, first we see the city, the big city is modern, lots of high rises. Then we're building more high rises nowadays. They're building like couple of super high rise building over 500 meters tall, and there are 3 or 4 buildings about 3 to 400 meters. As and you see the so crowded the area. And Shenzhen become the real modern city is only like 10 years. Before the 10 years, it's mostly immigrant city. Everybody go back home during Chinese New Year holiday. So it's become empty city. And only start from 10 years ago, then become real city, and people come to Shenzhen for Chinese New Year. So this is we have over 40 villages inside the Shenzhen with so-called special economic zone, and the mostly immigrants, migrant workers, what we called. So this is you can see the central CBD is just on the edge of this largest urban village. Unfortunately, this part of the urban village is already torn down. We did the research in 2005. It's still there. So the 2 years, it's been torn down for over a year. Yeah, that's the villages, and the village scene. You can see the people living these areas. The environment here is though chaotic and very has some strong alive in it. You can feel it when you are in, and people find their own place for life and work and those. So we call those kind of place as a self-grow urban fabric. It's not totally planned. And lots of things they grow by themselves. So what we call this area is what a city needs has this thing. So you'll see most of the first floor is occupied by the shops, or different kind of shops and the restaurants, and above it it's a residential area, those units. So it's very very convenient if you try to grab some food and like at 3 o'clock in the evening, you just make a call and 5 minutes the food is there, and in front of the door. So okay, now we can fast forward a little bit. Yeah, you still can see a little bit. Okay. So I think we're supposed to have a little sound effect. Okay, fast forward, please. So we did a series of research on this urban village and um, watch those people, how people living in the area and what the condition of them. And we did some design, just right here, yes. Um, and we found the people utilize their rooftops very often. And also it's not fully utilized too. So we came up with some ideas to do what we call the rooftop urbanism, adding some structures on the top of the building. And since those buildings are very strong and the people already expect to build like a 10-story buildings on the top is 7. So, so this is very much okay. Okay, so we can finish this. And so we picked the one of the area to do the exercise. This is how we consider how we can till the one part of a block. Then we distribute it on the rooftop, forms some public space on the top, and still remain the active commercial activities on the ground floor. So. So by this, try to improve the living condition for people. Of course, no one's commissioned us to do this, but we gain a lot of experience. So in reality, the people are also living in this like dormitory-like place. It used to be a company's dorm. A building in 1980s, and we also have those a collective kind of a dormitory type of a building. People living there, and they have their own creativity to build a lot of things. And kitchen outside, you see the white blocks and some build out stuff. But all the houses are getting old so fast. And so we thought that probably this is some situation we really need to provide some solutions for low-income people. And we also look at the traditional Chinese vernacular. For example, this is called the Tulou in Southeast China, and it's a kind of round and square, rectangular shaped building, and they have very strong collective kind of public space kind of sense, and the people living there. So we actually made a model and combined with the urban village inside. You see the chaotic situation could be happening inside. So we can have a big circle type of Tulou type of building type outside. That's our first prototype. So, we collaborate with one of the biggest housing developer in China called Vanke. They start to initiate this we call the low-income housing program. So this is the first, it was called the experimental housing. And the shape and the size we decide is to start from this small units research. So basically, it's a long story. It's about 5 people can, like 5 people living in 30 square meter unit with everything. So this is something we built. it's been widely published, and I speak it in several different places. And this is a really good experience to us to see the collectiveness and how people use this space and how the owner will manage this and the quality. And with the same rent, you see the people use the urban village, a similar rent, so that they can get a lot better living quality in this kind of area. So that's the idea. We say the ultimate idea is we can colonize the Tulo into the city and build more in the vacant land controlled by the government or other big company, maybe. So this is something we learned from this what so-called subculture, how people find their way to live, and obviously there are some other better conditioned people. They are still looking for the better life, and something like this is showing in very typical housing neighborhood kind of a sales office. People desperately want to buy a unit like this. They end up living at a space like this type of high-rise buildings, and this is what they really look forward like their life supposed to be, and endless kind of a building will build. So this is some like a high-end house they're trying to have, but it's all Western kind of idea, and the people living there they thought, okay, this is it. We're happy, and what we are trying to do is trying to find some alternative way to think on how Chinese are supposed to live in their own place. We did this called the Mid-Hill Apartment and Hotel. This project, we have a strong idea to achieve like a return of the idea of Chinese living. This is a painting of the Chinese scholar. It's over 1,000 years, and it represents the idea, people living in the mountain, away from the society actually, and but they still have their private life. So this is the ideal of a Chinese scholar who have the lifestyle. Even they have some kind of urban environment, but they still try to have some sort of life, close to the nature. So you see the right, the top of the rock, the people sitting there. Then the women and children stay inside the house. Even the men, they are gathering, on the rock. This is somehow the idea of Chinese living. And there is a saying like mountain outside mountain and building outside building. This is what they are explained there, the idea. So though the painting says, okay, they have layers, building outside, and there's new buildings and endless mountains. So we start to practice some first of doing the urban public space. There's a park entrance. We start using this kind of idea, and this is a perfect location because it's on the foot of the mountain. So we start to do some different settings according to this kind of idea. And it looks like a very European style. Someone said, "Oh, you're designing North European style," and it's like a Norwegian. So I say, okay, you look at the space, the quality of the space, and it looks like this very famous Chinese painting, and also the 1,000 years ago. It's about a mountain outside mountain and building outside. And that's the ideal life for Chinese. It's like we have layers, and the building, the profile, and echoes the mountain, the shape of mountain. And there is some series of different courtyards. And so every unit actually can enjoy the special courtyard and their mountain scene. And also there's another important idea about this, the Chinese, traditional Chinese art. It's what they call that they don't have a perspective kind of concept, but because the Chinese tend to paint the really long paintings, rolls. So when they roll up, and when they paint the city scene, it's kind of like a multiple vantage point. So we call the multiple vantage point the perspective. So they are doing this very famous painting, drawing the 1,000 years ago Chinese capital. This is one painting, lasts very long. So this is something we did a similar thing, and the building is wrapped around. It's like a opened roll. It's like a painting. You start from one spot to the other spot. It has a different angle and different perspective. And the last project is we one step forward. We were trying to challenge ourselves in doing something new. We entered the National Sinology Center in post-Olympic Park. They are doing like Ron Koolhaas and Stephen Hall, like Frank Gehry, Vanoli. They all entered the competition for National Art Museum expansion right here. So we are doing the Sinology Center, and we studied all the like symbolic Chinese architecture from 1920s to the current days. They are all not to pay much attention to the culture itself, but it's all for the national type of the image. So we tried something else. I'm not very satisfied with this image, but we try something different. And we try to bring people into this high-end facility, which is actually turned down by the high-end officials. But ordinary people, they still can have a different type of experience for this traditional Chinese culture. They can experience it in different space, different courtyard, and they have different places. And we are doing the place as more very sophisticated and try to be more cultural correct. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Yeah. all the pictures you show from the traditional China living and what you still see in the old cities is this huton structure, which is has a very low density. Yeah? It's not a lot of people living in an area.
Yeah, reality is very high density. We always talking about FAR.
Floor area ratio.
Right, and it's almost like 3. It's because a side building is all 7 stories, so they have only 1 meter between the buildings.
Yeah.
The
so you're saying in the old
super high density. Yeah.
And is the density is not lower than the density you are building now?
The mountainside building is only like less than 2. It's very low.
The floor area ratio.
Right.
Yeah.
The FAR is.
Don't know if you all know that. No. Floor area ratio is the amount of housing per
housing
square meter.
In China, according to the building code, it's really hard to do any housing above 3. So this is it's like a limit. But right now, lots of people we do super high-rise apartment buildings. They go 5.
Yeah. You try to attach the Chinese and the European culture, but if I'm completely honest, and perhaps, I was a dean of an architecture school. Okay. I've seen quite some projects which are alike and which not necessarily were in China.
Okay.
So I can see that you are both, you and your partner are trained in the USA and in Miami.
Right.
If I'm right.
Yes.
How does that come? That what comes out still looks pretty Western.
Yes. Unfortunately, this everything brought to us. We adopt a whole new system. So our mindset is become more Western. Our knowledge structure become totally Western. So we wear all Western, and we except the Chinese language, it's all Chinese. But everything we have, everything we use, everything we see, 99% of the thing is Western. So
in the previous block, for people from Brazil and yesterday people from India critiqued severely the Western approach to design, and you seem to say people in China want it, and we make it.
I still believe modernism is the solution for Chinese people, because modernism, the foundation of the modernism is the mass production, right? So if everybody has the needs to have a better life, so we got to build a lot of buildings. And the Western system, for now, we don't have any other substitutional way to build so many buildings. So that's why we still are using, we have to use a Western system. Then can we adding something our own? This is the problem. You see the one picture I showed, there is a very traditional way of doing Chinese, the high-rise building, and they have a Chinese shape of the building. It doesn't work. And Chinese architects, they debate for almost a century. How we can do this kind of, is that right? It's a progressive, it's going backwards. And this is endless debate. So we're not going to enter this kind of debate anymore.
But you're saying the demand right now is a lot of housing in the big cities, and then modernism is still a good clue because it's an industrialized way of building?
I don't think we have any other choice. Yeah, that's what we are more realistic than idealism or utopian kind of approach. Even also people say our Tulo project is very utopian because it's more collectiveness and they're all social housing type. It's nothing like current Chinese belief. Chinese right now is more capitalist thinking than any European countries. Believe me. So this is the way we're going. So now how we can balance this is what that's our task.
Thank you very much, Mr.
All right.
Liu Xiaodong.
Thank you.